Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to this station for the imagination. You are all residents of this locale. Thank you very much for being here. And as you know, I am your host, DBJ. And on these Future Friday, we talk about science fiction in the tabletop RPG community, most specifically and quite niche. We talk about transhumanism. Uh, there are a number of tabletop role playing games, such as Eclipse Phase, the Expanse counts in there, Altered Carbon, and many others. But in general, we talk about science fiction and futurism in the tabletop RPG community. And this does deal with our weekly show. We go live daily, Monday through Friday, and in more traditional sense, we've been talking about bards, the very charismatic, the artistic, the face of the groups, as you will, or your hypnotic monsters and creatures. But what does this deal with? I mean, how do we merge this with our futurism? Well, in the thumbnail, the title of Artificial Art and Entertainment is what we're going to talk about today. And where does the passion economy fit in? And how can we use that to make stories and have some exciting, content for our tabletop futuristic locations? So, one thing I think when we talk about artificial art is this idea, and I think today sometimes it rubs against our basic our baser emotions that art cannot be made by some kind of artificial contraption, it separate from a human being using their own soul, their own passion to create it. Yeah. Yeah, Jarl DM says, "Can there be artificial art? All art made by people is art. So is artificial art made by AIs?" Well, of course we're not going to be able to solve that, but that's the issue, right? Like if I pick up a an ink pen or paints or charcoal and I make a painting, or I am an AI developer and I make an AI that does the same thing, is that artificial? Okay. Now, the some may want to split hairs on this and go, well, if I just program a robot to make a painting, then yes. But if I make an AI and the AI decides for itself what kind of art it makes, like I don't give the AI instruction, I just give it the ability to randomly do a thing and then it does it and learns, then is that very artistic? And there could be some conflict with that, but I contend to you it's already being done and we've already made a decision on it. And the answer, of course, is let's drum roll, please. The answer is yes. It's already being done. I will go into it in a little bit. Jarl DM says, if an AI is capable of learning and expressing itself, then I think it's art for sure. Yeah. He goes to say, if I program something to make art, I'm the artist. If the thing makes art itself, then it's the artist. Tesla Rangers is like running bobross.exe. Yeah, exactly, right? Now, of course, transhumanism, like could you make an acquire all of Bob Ross's external mannerisms and then design an AI that emulates everything Bob Ross has done to make an artificial Bob Ross? I think it's possible to do that too. But more importantly, I I think don't we look at who created the art, but I think more importantly, it's how do we react to the artistic expression itself, whether it's artificial or not, right? So an example would be that like okay, we've seen elephants at the zoo given paints, or animals and things given paints, and they make a painting, and we are enchanted by the act of them doing it, and it makes us feel something. And I think the art itself making us feel something, and that feeling doesn't need to be a good feeling, right? But that feeling could be hope or fear or desire, or it could be a type of uplifted entertainment. Thank you, Kitty. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you want to be part of the show? I've always invited you. Sorry about that. That was clickbait. Anyway, Jarl DM says Bob Ross's best qualities were not necessarily his skill at art, but his kindness, support, and encouraging atmosphere. Oh hell yes! And I think sometimes we as a public, maybe I'm getting a little bit preachy here, but we undervalue the personality of the person creating the art versus the art itself, where someone may not be the greatest singer or dancer or entertainment at all. And, one person goes, I don't know why they're popular, but we fail to realize that there's something about that other individual doing the thing. Like, for example, um, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, right? Like, could you honestly say that he is a top notch actor, or is it his charisma that is coming through? Arnold Schwarzenegger is was the same deal, right? During Arnold Schwarzenegger's heyday, I mean, were any of us fooled by his accent? He was basically playing himself. Okay, gave him some lines, modified his Schwarzeneggerisms. Ooh, that's a bad terminology. Into what he was doing, but I mean, it's a lot of it's charisma, and there's something undefinable about charisma, but maybe technology might be able to decipher it, because technology's already trying to calculate what is charisma. What is the thing? What is the intangible thing that draws you in? This makes me think of Netflix in the States has just released a new documentary that I just saw called The Social Experiment. And it's The Social Dilemma. I apologize. It's called The Social Dilemma. And they're talking about how AI algorithms are being made by these multi billion dollar corporations to elicit our attention, our addiction, by thereby eliciting our passion for what they're displaying in front of us. And AI may be able, and when I say AI, I'm talking about the developers themselves, may be able to configure things that will draw our attention and get our passions riled up, which they're already doing. Jarl DM says mechanical skill at art was the ultimate goal of the great masters, for example. But most modern art is as much about intent, deconstruction, and theme than it is about being technically skilled. And that kind of it would be it's the difference between, like, uh PlayStation 5 is coming out and you're going to see like photorealistic environments in a lot of these games, but then we have Minecraft, right? And it's like minimalism versus immersion. You know what I mean? I don't know if immersion is the right one. Minimalism versus simulationist. Okay, and both are completely valid. Um, but they hit different emotional parts, and I like that. Your DM says Bruce Willis once said, "I've been playing Bruce Willis professionally for 30 years. Don't tell me how to be Bruce Willis," when he was acting as a character in a Kevin Smith film. Yeah, sometimes he's a little more Bruce Willis than Willis is, and because I would dare to say that when he's been in the Die Hard movies, that he's been more John McClane in the first three than the last ones, where he is just playing Bruce Willis, playing John McClane. Yeah, your LDM says I find a game with a deliberate style much more appealing than modern, AAA photorealistic games. And that's the thing, right? Like, there was what's the game? Oh, see, my mind just it's there is a there's a number of styles of games have had uh, a good impact on me. Like I love the style of comic book art, made animated comic book art. I love the style. There was one style that was it was like an Asian painting with like ink splats, and it was almost surreal in the way you played the game. There's a number of themes that I think. Y'all says the Wolf Among Us has beautiful comic book art style. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I think that is undersold is, like you're saying, like the intent behind it, the style. Um, Okami, that's it. Had the gorgeous Japanese ink brush look. Yeah, I love that, and it was stacked 2D. It was like 3D, but you could see the layers in it, and you could kind of go in front of and behind it and stuff. It was very 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 beautiful. I love it. I love it. Now, in terms of like futurism and role playing, and you're the transhumanist world or something like that, there may be individuals, AIs, robots, things like that that are existent in the world where we are always looking for entertainment. We're always looking for the next passion. Yeah. Deadman says there's also 13. It used cell shading. Yeah, 13. The spy, the first person spy shooter RPG style game, where you lost your memory. You find out, spoiler alert, that you were one of the assassins. 13. Anyway, but yeah, I love it too, because it did use that cell shading where it was basically like it was almost a throwback to original comic book art, where they would have to save ink and to color things very quickly. They would have a cell, and a cell would be like my T-shirt, and then they would just use dot matrixing to fill it in. Like they would just put red dots, as opposed to painting the whole cell red, to prevent bleed over and save ink and stuff like that. So you get the image that you think it's red, but it really wasn't completely red. Uh, Detail that was unimportant. Anyway, um, the individuals in the future, just like today, that garner lots of attention and get your passions riled up, might come at us from different angles. Like, for example, our own social media is designed to elicit our passions, right? Like, for example, what's something that I was trying to think of something that's not controversial, but there's no way to do this because controversiality is kind of what draws our passions, like a flat earther, right? So if I start searching for flat earth materials, my social medias will eventually only place in front of my attention other flat earth groups, theories, proof about my flat earthing. And it's basically the rabbit hole, right? Like you start going down the rabbit hole, you can't climb back out of it because your social media will start to cultivate a certain type of attention for you, and it will close off other types of attention because those things, it's predicting you're not going to be interested in those things. You've already placed an interest, and so it's a way for us to our get riled up. It's why we have such divisions in politics, because you won't be exposed to opposing views, no matter how reasonable or um, how in alignment an opposing view may be to your own views. And so eventually what happens is you can get and now mind you, on earth we're separated by thousands of kilometers, but we could all be part of these groups, in commingled into larger groups. But the thing that grabs our attention, and I'm calling it art because it is an art it is an art in and of itself, to find things that are disparate, to bring to our attention our own passions, right? It may not make sense. I'll get to the chat in a minute. Walmart uses an AI algorithm here in the States to send merchandise to different stores. And whenever there's a storm, they realize that strawberry Pop Tarts sells better before an oncoming storm. So they will send larger pallets of strawberry Pop Tarts to their stores. Do they know why people buy strawberry Pop Tarts? I'm sure all of you can think of reasons why, but they don't know and they don't care. All they know is oncoming storm, send out strawberry Pop Tarts, right? So it's it's the same thing. Like yeah. Um Yeah, Dead Man was talking about 13. Like, yeah, if you get a headshot in the game, you get a mini screen with a close up of the headshot. I like 13. I liked 13. I still had that game for within the past couple of months as I cleaned stuff out. Jarl DM says the algorithm on YouTube is how people get sucked into the alt right hate rabbit hole. There's a great series I saw about that. If it shows you more and more specific things if you keep watching a topic. Yeah, the documentary that just dropped on Netflix here in the States is about that. It's the social dilemma where we are the product. If you pay for it, you're paying for a product. If it's free, we're the product, and our product is attention. And in the future, even in the far future, attention is value because attention is the thing, our eyeballs, our ears, our ability to interact with the thing is what is being sold. It is the thing that is the value. And unfortunately, the more if I started looking up um knitting or something like that, or tie-dyeing t-shirts, or new ways to use to tie shoelaces in my shoes, at some point I'm going to stop seeing other things that I might be interested in. And as a matter of fact, some of the algorithms will actively try to stop you from searching for things that are outside of your own interests. And in specifically, let's talk about the role playing game Eclipse phase. Now, in Eclipse phase, um, the majority of humanity has something implanted in their head called a muse, and your muse is basically an internal computer. It's an AI essentially, and it learns as you grow older. It learns as you grow to adapt to you to become the thing that it's like a cell phone and personal computer in your head. And so much like the in the movie Her, where the main character Thrumby, I believe is his last name, gets an OS and it begins going through his email and learning what he likes and doesn't like, and starts making um, it ends up actually writing a book for him by collecting together a lot of his like poetry and notes that he's written down through his in the cloud. And so your muse starts adapting to you, but the the horror of your muse is that much like today, where you get on like Amazon or YouTube or Facebook, and it will start to give you a feed of things that you might be interested in the future, people will rely on their muse, and their muse might say, hey, I've already ordered you a pizza on Thursday because I've noticed every Thursday you order a pizza. I've already taken the opportunity to order one for you. And oh, by the way, I've contacted 6 to 8 of your closest contacts that you eat pizza with. They will be by in the next counting 14 minutes. Ding dong. Oh, and your pizza has arrived, right? It's like you haven't done the thing, but the muse has done it for you. But it could also cultivate these hyper specified, everybody else is the outsider, walls around your own psychology to elicit your attention with things because your muse knows you better than you. And what a lot of the things that AI systems are trying to learn is how long does your eye sit on something? How fast do you click away from something? What is your heart rate? What is your pupil dilation? How often do you make a comment or react to something? And a lot of these AI systems, like emojis, the when someone types in is typing to talk with you, and the three dot bar that boop 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 that goes across to let you know that someone else is trying to communicate with you. All these little systems were created to keep your attention on that subject. So, going into, because we've got to turn this into a role playing concept here. Okay, so imagine, if you will, player characters, and like there is an art called memetics, and uh, memetics is the study of information and culture based on an analogy with Darwinian evolution. Proponents describe memetics as an approach to evolutionary models of cultural information transfer. Memetics describes how an idea can propagate successfully, but doesn't necessarily imply a concept is factual. Okay, so the importance of that is that the wolf among us. I love the art for that. Um, the idea that the PCs can go somewhere and need to search for or find or eliminate or insert, like the movie Inception, maybe you have to insert an idea into a local population, using mimetic theories, using AI technologies to get us an idea to stick with a bunch of people, especially when in the far future, just like today, there's going to be too many things trying to draw your attention. So how do you do it? Well, certain colors, um, volume of speech, accents, um, clothing styles, just sense in the air, temperature. All these things may be important to have an idea stick in the population, and a mimetic assassin could be someone that pushes people to believe in something despite the fact that they don't believe in it themselves. And we see this today with our own, whether it's corporate interests and their advertisement, whether it's politics and someone trying to garner information. It is emotional. It's emotion peddlers to get people, the public, to believe in something, even though they themselves don't particularly believe in it, but they want you to believe in it, and that's where the power is. And everything from a single rogue hacker to an AI to corporate raiders or something could be out there in these like space habitats or something, manipulating people to believe or engage in like violent activity. You could almost claim it's hypnotism or mind control, but it's manipulation on a far subtler means, where PCs arrive in habitat. PCs are like, why is everyone like suspicious of each other? Murders start happening. It's very easy for their adversary to get allies on their side, or like in Black Mirror. This is, of course, a very blunt-handed way of doing it, but in Black Mirror, there were soldiers that had these eye implants, and the eye implants allowed them to see, to quote unquote lift the veil off of their eyes to see these monstrous, uh, blood sucking, cannibals, and the soldiers were, um, were hoorah, let's go kill these monsters out there because we got to defend the world. Come to find out that the military was using it to manipulate their own soldiers to kill innocent people because they wanted to exterminate a certain ethnic group, right? So they saw, the wolf among us, right? They saw the bestial people, but instead they were women and children, um, cowering in corners with soldiers, giving each other high fives and butt slapping each other for killing them because they thought they were ravaging these monsters. And sometimes the veil over the eyes feels a whole lot better than performing the act itself, right? Like there might be people who are so horrified at what they've done or what they've created that they might be driving themselves insane, to bury themselves back into this mesh of an overlay of a augmented reality where they're seeing things that they want to see because the truth hurts too much, and a hacker, an AI, a corporation, um, uh, anarchists or something could hack into people's audio systems, visual systems to present to them a world that they want to see because that's the world they've been looking for, and also to give them a world that they want to see because the real world is pretty horrible. That also kind of goes into Altered Carbon. Eclipse Phase has a sanity mechanic that somehow, in certain ways might be overlooked. But the sanity mechanic is, deals with like body dysmorphia and re-sleeving and things. But it can also be, being exposed to things that would normally drive us insane. But now we have technology to put a put a band-aid over it. So instead of doing the hard work and confronting the thing that would, cause us, post-traumatic stress. Instead, it's like, well, do we really want to deal with the real problem? Nah. Here's a filter to go over your eyes, so everything that you see looks the way you want, right? And there's okay, Deadman says there's also a Wolf Among Us 2 coming to Steam and unspecified consoles. Um, I wonder what PS5 is going to come out with that's going to be a changer. But anyway, the it is this idea that you could, even the PCs could be manipulated into seeing a thing and trying to navigate it, or um, even the idea that there is how to explain this, that the player characters thought they were one way. Somehow there's a glitch in the matrix. They realize that there's something underneath, but then they realize everybody else they've ever been around believes the thing that's been revealed to them. And then the question becomes, do you disrupt a society that's been manipulated, or are the PCs seeing a manipulated society and everything else is real? Or is this just another layer of filter, And those questions can be pretty daunting. And even, it takes a mature group to play in something like that, to be told, like, oh, guess what? Your player character, yeah, all those memories you thought you had, yeah, that's not real. You woke up 3 hours ago, even though you have, 27 years of history behind you. Yeah, you just woke up. Um, so, uh, lastly, I will say that you could run a game in a classic sense of going after the MacGuffin. A an artist could be uh, highly desired in a particular way or shape or community or something, and that artist could have death threats or be kidnapped, or someone wants to. Maybe it's very difficult to Zox someone's brain, to copy someone's brain, or maybe there's a great artist that hires the PCs to go collect copies of their cortical stacks out there because there's an underground being sold in the anarchist communities in the outer rim of our solar system that's taken the Bob Ross.exe um, program and has been spreading it around, disseminating it because everyone loves the uh, Bob Ross AI, but the real Bob Ross, um, people who own the rights to the Bob Ross intellectual properties is like, could you get that back for us, please? Because we never gave permission for them to send out our Bob Rossians, right? And that may be like okay, we've got to collect them back. Imagine how many people would copy the brains, the actual create an AI psychology for like the Taylor Swifts and the Princes and the Einsteins and people who are far more horrible than the above, like the Kardashians or something, just to have them in your back pocket whenever you want to speak to them or see them or download them and re-sleeve them into biological bodies for your own entertainment or boredom or to be part of a larger habitat, right? They're somehow a far future messiah. You want to delve into them. Matter of fact, there was even a, is it Love, Sex, and Robots on Netflix here in the States that was revealed, where there was one of the animated segments was about a robot that an artist that painted everything blue and was making these larger and larger like concepts of blue, and everybody was into it and they were like, oh my goodness, when's this next project? And of course it was like painting a street blue and a car and then a building and then a space station and, all this kind of stuff, and then decided at the very last minute to do their last final artistic display. And this artist, you find out that the artist was like an AI, and the AI was really just came from a swimming pool scrubber, and the swimming pool scrubber was scrubbing the pool, and it was the same blue tile that this one simple AI swimming pool scrubber was scrubbing the pool, and he regressed back to his desire to just want to see a perfectly blue square, you know, and the people that were enamored by it, and it kind of makes you. I mean, I'm sure the depth of that is kind of like, it's like a full circle. What is the one thing? How does something grab our passions, and can you relate that down to a base a base emotion or something? Now, more horribly, something could manipulate people psychologically in terms of like a specific sound or set of images is broadcast into people's eyes, and it turns them insane, causing them to lose control of their anger, their passions, and maybe even their bowels or something, and they just get hypnotized by it. And no one knows why, but it's just, hey, if we flash up these particular sounds and images at a certain speed and a certain rate at a particular time and place, that it will just imprint in the brain, and you'll get the person, hypnotize a person, and when they hear or see a certain color or a certain phrase or smell a certain scent or whatever, boom, they just go crazy and they start, trying to kill or kill the PCs randomly, and the PCs have to figure a thing out. The player characters could even be infected by it, know they're infected by it, but don't know what the trigger is, and now they have to run around trying to figure out, like, okay, how do we undo this hypnotism, because we can't ego cast or needle cast out of this out of the bottle, out of the enclosed, bounded location that we're in. We need to do something because we don't want to carry this back to society, into, civilization. So they might have to run around and do a thing before they go insane, or a trigger makes them go insane and destroys their minds or something. And lastly, I would say that, you know, something not brought up a lot when it comes to space travel is boredom. Traveling for, the first Mars mission is not really about the survival, so much as, because we have the technology to get people there, and we have the technology to make it functionally as safe as possible to try to eliminate all the problems. But one of the issues you can't predict is going insane, going the psychological harm that happens when you take a bunch of people and you put them in a small can and they have to deal with each other. We know that this is true because there are people in the Arctic Circle and in Antarctica that have to deal with each other in a small location, small tight location, and deal with each other's personalities and the harm that happens when it's done. I'm sure many people that are on that take 6 to 8 month tours in submarines go through those issues, and you need a release valve. And if there's no release valve, where do you go? What do you do? And so, even those individuals that know that that's a thing, it happens. Ooh, Fables. Yeah, I love the artwork on that Fables. Thank you, Dead Man. Get a little squirrely there, but that's all right. So I would say that. Yeah, Dead Man's like The Wolf Among Us is based on the comic book Fables by Bill Willingham. Added to the Discord. Yeah, the Fables is it's oh the reinterpretation, like the reinvented fairy tales and things like that in a modern sense. I love it, and pretty dark too. The idea that the player characters might need to fend off a growing like a it's like a it's a timer, right? It's the growing threat of, we know we're going to go insane if we stick together. What are we going to do to alleviate it? Or there are a number of artists that might exist in the world where their art, whatever that art might be, whether it's anything from the person who created the Rubik's Cube or its equivalent in the future, all the way up to someone who, heck, taking along role playing games and computer games, or virtual reality chips, sim stims or whatever, simulated stimulations. It may be that a lot of the people who are the best creators, it's not whether you're technically good at creating artificial worlds or virtual realities. Maybe it's something that you cannot define, and those individuals that create this stuff, it might be very valuable because you need it to go on these long journeys. Like, hey, we plan on going out to the Orc Cloud. We're going to need at least a half dozen of these well-made, high-quality virtual reality worlds for our crew to play around in. And we can't leave until we get it. Hey, PCs, we're going to hire you to go out there and get them. There might even be a draconian government that's trying to stop the creation of art, because art makes people think, it makes people express themselves. Art is freedom in and of itself, right? And they're trying to shut it down. And that art might not be painting on walls or listening to music. That art could be very, virtual reality, altered reality, or a draconian government might be using high quality art, augmented reality, to overlay something to make their draconian government look nice. Like, sure, you're digging ditches and mining out asteroids and stuff like that, working 18-hour days, but everything looks like sunshine and roses to your eyes and ears, right? No, you don't feel any pain or anything because we're making it look beautiful, Yep. Yeah. You guys are on a Fable kick. I guess maybe that might have to be a thing at a certain point. But anyway, guys, got to get out of here. Thank you very much for joining me on this here Future Friday. Here every Friday for Future Friday. We will be talking more generally. We will be talking about classic Dungeons and Dragons and. Oh, wow. Tesla says Bob Ross streams twitch.tv/Bob Ross streams every weekend from noon Friday to noon Monday. Yeah. What was it? Wasn't Bob Ross put on Twitch to start it off? I believe that was the case. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you very much for just supporting the channel. Thank you for just being here, supporting me. I have some writing projects coming up with N-World and with Onyx Path Publishing that I hope will come to fruition, and I hope I am value added for their projects. Of course, I'm always working with Critical Hit Publishing. I am a contributing writer for them, and of course, my baby is the cinematic environments. But like, share, subscribe, spread it out there. And thank you very much for being part of the station for the Imagine Nation. Thanks for being residents here. Guys, have a great one. I see thee nice and early Monday. Thank you.